Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the bodyguard of Azula. Naruto is banished from Konoha, but gives them the slip and boards a ship. Soon after, he is shipwrecked on Ember Island and is saved by Azula. 3 years later, Naruto is Azula's bodyguard while she hunts for the Avatar, but did he see the last of Konoha? Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 28, Warming Up and Moving Forward. Location, Fire Nation. Morning had come and the group, minus Aang, had gathered together. They had all changed out of their disguises and back into their actual clothes. Katara decided to keep her hair out of her braid. Sokka studied the maps they had of the Fire Nation repeatedly. He rubbed one of his eyes, feeling slightly tired. Katara saw that and handed him a cup of water. That was when Aang joined them. Top of the morning, Momo, he said as the lemur landed on his shoulder. Sounds like you slept well, Katara noted, standing up. Like a baby moose lion, he declared. He did indeed look better. The bags under his eyes were gone and he didn't look like he was about to snap at any minute. I'm ready to face the Fire Lord. So, what's your strategy for taking him down? Toph asked him. Gonna get your glow on and hit him with a little Avatar state action? She punched the air a few times to emphasize her point. I can't, he told her. When I was shot by lightning, my 7th chakra was locked, cutting off my connection to all the cosmic energy in the universe. And no matter what he did, he couldn't unlock it. You know what I just heard. Blah, blah spiritual mumbo-jumbo, blah, blah something about space, she said, using her hand as a mouth. She seriously did not understand what had just come out of the air nomad's mouth. Oh no, Katara said, seeing a huge bank of fog out on the ocean. Sokka, do you think the fog will delay the invasion? He stood up and looked closer at the fog. No, that is the invasion, he declared. Coming out of the fog were 5 ships. 5 ships of Water Tribe make. They got down to the beach and Aang and Toph went to work. They bent the rocks beneath the water to rise up and formed 5 docks, 1 for each ship. The ships docked and their passengers began to disembark. Both Sokka and Katara ran towards Hakoda when they saw him come ashore. You made it, Dad. Katara cried with joy as she hugged him. Were you able to locate everyone I told you to find? Sokka asked. I did, Hakoda answered. But I'm a little worried, Sokka. Some of these men aren't exactly the warrior type. As if to prove his point, both Tho and Du got off the ship. They were wearing their normal clothes, consisting of a loincloth, wrappings around their arms and legs and a leaf hat, but it included their idea of armor, which was shin and arm guards and a wooden chest piece. Oh we whistled Du. This place ain't nothing like the swamp. He pointed at a rock. What you reckon that is, though? Some sort of Fire Nation exploding trap what eat ya? It's just a rock, Du, though told him with both patience and exasperation in his voice. Well, I'll be. Is it just me, or are those fellas a little loose in the leaf hat? Hakoda asked aloud. I just wish they would wear pants, Bato told him as he passed by. Pants are an illusion, Hugh told as he too got off the ship, scratching his stomach. And so is death. The adults just looked at him in disbelief while Sokka smiled. They soon got every member of the swamp tribe off the ships when Katara heard a familiar voice. Hi, Katara. Turning around, she saw that it was Haru, who now sported a mustache and a goatee. Haru, it's so good to see you, she said, running over and giving him a quick hug. Toph, this is Haru, Aang introduced the 2 earthbenders. When we met him, his town was controlled by the Fire Nation. So, he had to hide his earthbending. Katara inspired me and my father to take back our village, Haru explained, making Katara look away and blush. You helped us find our courage, Katara, Haru's father, Tyro, told her as he stood behind her and clasped her and his son on the shoulder. Now we're here to help you. Toph felt a familiar presence nearby. No way, she said, turning around and moving into an earth-bending stance. Is that? She got her answer when two big arms picked her up. Hippo happy to see Blind Bandit, declared the hippo, giving her a hug. The boulder stood behind him. You guys here for a rematch? She demanded. It wasn't the time, but she would oblige them. Negatory, the boulder told her. The boulder and the hippo no longer fight for others' entertainment. Now we fight for our kingdom. Sweet, she said with a smile. That was much better. An explosion went off in one of the ships, getting the team's attention. As they went to go check what happened, the mechanist appeared above deck, coughing from all the smoke. His son, Tao, rolled down the ramp and onto the dock followed by his father as well as Pipsqueak and the Duke. Was that a new invention? Sokka asked as he, his father, and Aang ran up to them. Yes, the mechanist answered. But unfortunately, the incendiary capabilities of peanut sauce proved to be a failure. You're making peanut sauce bombs? He couldn't help but ask the question. They're destructive, Pipsqueak said. And delicious, the Duke finished from atop Pipsqueak's shoulders. They licked the rest of the peanut sauce off while Momo tried to get the remnants, making them laugh. Were you able to complete work on the plans I sent you? Sokka asked the mechanist. Yes, I was, he answered excitedly. And I think the Fire Nation will be quite surprised. Aang, my dad and I made this for you, Tao said, handing the Air Nomad a staff. A new glider, Aang said as he watched handles and blue wings snap out. This is amazing. Now, he could fly again. And as a special feature, I added a snack compartment, the mechanist told him, demonstrating how it worked. Oh, well, I'm sure that'll come in handy, he said hesitantly. That wasn't usually in an Air Nomad glider. But he wasn't going to say anything. I bet you're tired of being in this cell, old man, the guard said to Iroh as he trimmed his nails. Well, too bad. You're never stepping outside of these walls again. Breakfast, another guard announced, walking in with food. Careful, Ming, don't get too close, he said to the second guard as he stood up. His stench will knock you right out. He walked out of the cell laughing. She scowled at his back before turning back to face the cell. I snuck in some white jade tea, she told Iroh as she set the tray the food was on inside the cell. I know how you like rare teas. Thank you, Ming, he said, taking the tea. Ever since I was put in here, you've been very kind to me. It seemed like she had been the only one. The members of the invasion force sat in front of a stone stage that held a board. Sokka was sitting nearby, clutching his maps with a nervous grip. He was the one who had to explain the plan to everyone. But he was so nervous. Don't worry, his father told him. You'll do great. He took a deep breath and walked up onto the stage, getting everyone's attention. He tried to speak, but he just stood there, frozen on the spot and terrified. He had words. He had plenty of words. He even had a plan. But they wouldn't come out of his mouth. Nothing would. He felt a hand on his shoulder. Why don't you let me do this? Hakoda asked gently. He nodded numbly and walked back down. Hakoda put the maps on the board and then turned to face the crowd. Let me clarify a few points for everyone, the chieftain of the Southern Water Tribe began. Today is the day of Black Sun, and I want to thank you all for your self-sacrifice and your courage. There are 2 steps to the invasion, a naval stage and then a land stage. To gain sea access to the Fire Nation capital, we have to get past our first major obstacle here. He pointed at a spot on the map. The Great Gates of Azulon. He flipped to the next map. Next, we hit the land and we hit hard. We must fight past their battlements and secure the Plaza Tower. Once we do that, it's up to the royal palace. At that point, the eclipse will begin. Excuse me, the boulder raised his finger. The boulder is confused. Isn't the idea to invade during the eclipse, when the firebenders are powerless? The hippo nodded in agreement. The eclipse only lasts 8 minutes, not enough time for the whole invasion, Hakoda explained. And the royal palace is heavily guarded by firebenders. So that's where we'll need the eclipse advantage the most. When this is over, the Avatar will have defeated the Fire Lord. We will have control of the Fire Nation capital, and this war will be over. His words had everyone cheering, except for Sokka, who was still embarrassed for choking. After the meeting, everyone prepared for battle. Katara filled up her pouches to the brim with water. Toph and Hakoda, as well as many others, began to armor up. Standing on the cliffs overlooking the invasion force was both Appa and Akela. Appa was dressed from head to toe in steel armor with the arrow of the air nomads on his head. Akela was dressed in a leather cuirass that was steel-plated at his shoulders. Appa gave a roar as they stood there, waiting. Meanwhile, Aang knelt on some rocks, looking at the water's reflection. He had taken what was left of his clothes and wrapped them around his torso, leaving his right arm bare. He held his razor in his right hand, and was using it to shave his hair off. The last patch was shaved off to reveal his arrow, the one he had been hiding all this time. He stood up, his arrow tattoos proudly showing themselves to the world once more. Zuko stood in front of his bed. He took out his headpiece, letting his hair fall. He removed his armor and placed it on the bed as well. Walking over to his desk, he dipped a brush in ink and began to write a letter. Over in her own room, Azula was changing too. She had completely changed out of the armor and clothes she wore and was standing in her undergarments. She put on a pair of black pants, and then a sleeveless red shirt. She put on her boots, but didn't tuck the pants' legs in. She pulled a black leather vest over the shirt and buttoned it up. She grabbed the belt that Mai had bought for her and wrapped it around her waist, making sure it was tight. After checking that the daggers were secured, she put on the gloves that Ty Lee had given her. She looked herself over in the mirror. That was when she realized she was still wearing the necklace Naruto had given her. Should I give it back? She asked as her hands drifted towards it. She stopped and shook her head. No, I want something to remember him by. Sokka stood on a small cliff, overlooking the ships and the sea. He had already dressed himself in armor, and was staring at the wolf helmet in his hands. He heard a glider moving through the air, and saw Aang landing next to him. We've been looking all over for you, he said. The boats are ready to leave. I messed up, Aang, the tribesman told him. What? The invasion plan was my moment of truth, and I completely froze. He couldn't feel any more embarrassing. Sokka, that speech wasn't your moment of truth, the Avatar told him, placing a hand on his shoulder. That was just public speaking, and no one's really good at that. My dad is. He protested. He explained the plan perfectly and inspired everyone, like a real leader should. That was something he wanted to be and yet was still unable to reach. Look, your moment of truth isn't gonna be in front of some map, it's gonna be out there on the battlefield. Aang pointed out to the sea to emphasize his point. How do you know we're gonna win? Sokka asked him. I already failed the world once at Ba Sing Se. I won't let myself fail again. He opened up the glider. I'll see you down there. He flew off, back down to the docks. You won't allow yourself to fail, huh? The tribesman repeated, looking at the wolf helmet again. The kid's got the right idea, a familiar voice said to him. He looked up. It's been a while, Saifu, he remarked, seeing the spirit hovering over the open space, just before the cliff's edge. Saifu stared into his eyes. You're scared, aren't you? You're scared of the oncoming fight. He nodded. Yeah, I am. Good, that means you have a brain in your head, the spirit declared with an approving tone. That caught the tribesman off guard. I'm sorry. Sokka, the ones who die first on the battlefield are the ones who think they're invincible. It's the ones who think nothing can stop them who usually end dying, wondering how it could have happened to them. You're scared. You have this feeling within yourself that's telling you that you might die, and you're scared of it. Accept the fear, accept the fact that you may possibly die, and the only way to avoid it is to be faster than the other guy. He listened to what the mysterious spirit had said. I guess you're right. Thank you, Saifu. He bowed his head in thanks. Anytime, it's always a pleasure to help one of my paragons. Saifu stopped speaking and looked at the armor he was wearing. That armor would suit you, if you were just a warrior of the Southern Water Tribe. But you are not. He reached out and touched the symbol of the Water Tribe on his chest. The armor began to change. The color turned darker until it was midnight blue. The fur and wool changed to stiff leather that was reinforced with steel plating. The helmet turned blue-gray and grew heavier as the fabric changed into leather as well. But what stood out the most with all of this was that the symbol of the Water Tribe had changed into the symbol of the Paragons. To be more specific, it changed into a symbol of the Paragons, the same one etched on his medallion. Now that's armor befitting a paragon of the Water Tribes, Saifu told him with approval before he disappeared. Sokka stared at the space where the spirit had floated for a second. Then he walked back down to the docks, where everyone was waiting for him. Sokka, are you okay? Hakoda asked his son. Yeah, Dad, he replied as Akela padded up beside him. Sorry, I had a moment of self-doubt. We all have those, his father said with assurance in his voice. He then looked at the armor his son wore. Where did you get that? My Saifu gave it to me. He said it was befitting of a paragon, the water paragon answered as he absently scratched Akela's ear. He was right. Everyone agreed with Hakoda's statement. The armor managed to make Sokka look both regal and deadly at the same time. Now, there's just one thing left to do. He looked his son straight in the eye and then, to the surprise of everyone there, he bowed. My Lord Sokka, will you do the honors? He took a deep breath and nodded his agreement. He walked past his father, putting on his helmet and with Akela following him. After a few steps, he turned to face the assembled Water Tribe warriors. Who are you? He asked them all. His friends weren't exactly sure, but they could have sworn something in his voice had changed. We are the Wolves of Battle, our teacher is Akela, the Alpha of all and none, he who walks the ice alone and fights with many at his side, the warriors said together as one. What was happening was one of the Water Tribe's pre-battle rituals, which supposedly comes one of the spirits who watched over them. The Water Tribes had many myths and stories to tell at the fire. The most popular ones were the ones about the Pack of Akela, a group of white wolves that would only band together in times of strife and conflict. The most prominent of these wolves was Akela himself. The stories say that when Tuei and La had come into the physical world, he had followed. He was a spirit of war, but there were many spirits of war. He was the spirit of learning of war. He taught how to fight and how to act so that when one was in a war, one might be able to live. His first students were the wolves who would eventually become his pack. Once he had taught them, he ordered them to walk their own paths. Soon after, he found the people of the Water Tribe. He took the men who were non-benders and taught them how to fight. Since then, every warrior who hails from the Water Tribes calls Akela their first teacher. That is why instead of praying to Tuei and La for strength, they pray to Akela. If you are wolves, let me hear you howl, Sokka ordered. They tried to do and the howling had echoed across the harbor, but he didn't like it. That sounded like the mewling of pups. He yelled, making every non-Water Tribe member there take a step back in surprise at his anger. Are you sure you're students of Akela? Yes, we are. They answered fiercely, their blood started to run hot. It was a matter of pride to be called a student of Akela. Even though they knew it was a part of the ritual, it still got them angry to be asked if they actually were. Then let me hear the howl of wolves of battle. He threw his head back and howled into the air. The warriors did as well. This howl was way much better than the first one. Even Akela joined the howl, and no one could tell him apart from the humans. They all just watched as the howling filled the air, sounding like a challenge to the Fire Nation. That has got to be the most exhilarating and most terrifying thing I've ever heard, Haru stated, having felt the hairs on the back of his neck rise up. Everyone else nodded in agreement. If skill and ferocity was all that was needed to win a fight, the warriors of the water tribes would undoubtedly rule this side of the planet, the mechanist told them as the howling stopped. After that, everyone boarded the ships and set sail. Bateau kept an eye out with his telescope. Soon, they saw what they were heading for. There they are, the great gates of Azulon, Hakoda declared. I don't see any gates, Katara commented. She only saw a statue of the late Fire Lord Azulon, 2 dragon statues at either end of the statue. Katara, you and the waterbenders from the swamp whip a fog cover. We'll sneak by them statues just we sneak by that Fire Nation blockade. Declared though. They bent up a fog bank that hid all of the ships. They got closer and closer to the gates, inside the fog. Keep it up. Hakoda told them. We're almost through. Of course, that was when things got a little complicated. They heard a warning bell go off. The dragon statues held the ends of a net in their mouths. The net tightened up, and as it reached its full height and length, it was set on fire. That's when everyone figured out it was a gate, just a gate done in true Fire Nation style, big and on fire. As they all looked at the gates, they heard jet skis coming at them. Looking at the water, there were indeed jet skis coming at them, carrying soldiers. Everyone below decks, ordered Hakoda. They all hurried down the stairs. Let's hope your invention works, he told Sokka before they joined them. The soldiers on the jet skis surrounded the ships and boarded them. They quickly went below deck and burst into the quarters, only to find no one there. The same was on every ship. No one's on board, sir, a soldier told the leader. Where'd they go? She asked. The answer was simple and yet would have sounded ludicrous to them. The entire invasion force had boarded submarines and was now sailing under the great gates of Azulon. Appa was swimming behind them, being able to breathe due to an air bubble. You've really outdone yourself this time, son, Hakoda told Sokka. The two of them, along with Pipsqueak, Bateau, and the mechanist were standing in the front of the lead submarine. Yeah, congratulations, Sokka, Toph said in misery from where she sat on the floor. You've managed to invent a worse way of travel than flying. She tried not to throw up. Helmet? Offered the Duke, handing his helmet out to her. She took it and hurled. Well, I just came up with the idea, Sokka told them all. The mechanist did all the work. Oh, don't sell yourself short, my boy, the mechanist replied from where he sat at the controls. It was your idea to use waterbending to make the subs sink and float, brilliant. Though your drawings were a bit crude, the explanations helped immensely. Unfortunately, there is one problem I couldn't fix. The subs have a limited air supply. Before we land on the beaches, we'll need to resurface. Lunchtime, General Iroh, Ming announced as she walked into the room. And this time, I brought you an extra bowl of rice, she said that last part in a whisper as she put the tray down. Thank you, Ming, he told her. Your little gestures of kindness have made my days unbearable. I think you should take the rest of the day off. She was confused by what he said. What? You don't look well. Maybe you should go and rest. No, I feel fine. It was the truth. She wasn't sick at all. Trust me. It is better that you are not here this afternoon. She nodded, getting the hint, and walked out of the room. The subs had surfaced, and everyone was out on the tops. While everyone stretched, the Duke cleaned out his helmet. So, this is it, huh? Aang asked Katara, Toph and Sokka once he landed on their submarine. Are you ready to let the Fire Nation know the Avatar is alive? Sokka asked him back. I'm ready, he answered firmly before pulling everyone into a group hug. I hope you kick some serious Fire Lord, but Twinkle Toes, Toph told him. Everyone, listen up. Hakoda called out, getting everyone's attention. The next time we resurface, it'll be on the beaches. So, stay alert and fight smart. Now break time's over, back in the sub, he ordered. Sokka and Toph broke the hug and walked back to the hatch, leaving Aang and Katara alone. Katara/Aang, they said at the same time. You go first, he told her. We've been through many things together, and have seen you grow up so much. You're not that little goofy kid in the iceberg anymore. Aang blushed at those words. I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm really proud of you. Everything's gonna be different after today, isn't? Yes, it is. What if I don't come back? He had to ask. Aang, don't say that. Of course, she was interrupted when he kissed her. She was surprised, and when he stepped back, she looked away and blushed. He opened the glider and took off. She watched him fly away. Katara, what are you doing? Sokka called out from the hatch. It's time to submerge. What? Right, I'm on it. She leapt onto Appa and bent a bubble of air over his head. Appa dived and the subs followed. Zuko walked into Mai's room. He looked at the picture of him and Mai. I'm sorry, Mai, he said, looking away. He left a note on her bed and left. Over in the royal palace, Azula was standing in front of Naruto's door. She pushed it open. Naruto? She called out. Nobody answered, the room was empty. Agni. I wanted to talk to him. She looked around. It seemed strange, but without him in the room, it felt bare, empty. If he's not here, she said as she walked out of the room, closing the door. Aang flew over the land, trying to concentrate. His concentration broke when he heard growling coming from his stomach. He repeated the motions the mechanist did and ate the snacks that came out. What do you know? It did come in handy, he remarked as he flew on. A periscope popped out of the water. Hakoda looked through at the Fire Nation defenses. Everyone in position, he ordered to the soldiers in the sub once he saw the defenses. Earthbenders, into your tanks. This is going to be a rough ride. Everyone started moving as he spoke, going deeper into the sub. It was happening in everyone. They approached the gate, raising the alarm of the Fire Nation defense. They quickly fired harpoons at the shadows in the water, which were mostly dodged. One harpoon got lucky and pierced through a hull of one of the subs, causing water to flood through. A nearby waterbender managed to freeze the water, but the harpoon was still caught, as was the chain it was attached to. The sub was pulled out of the water. It would have been the end for that particular sub had Katara not flown Appa out of the water and sliced through the chain holding it. The sub fell back into the water and rejoined the others. Ready the torpedo, Hakoda ordered as he looked through the periscope at the grates in the defense. In the bottom of the sub, frozen Fire Nation torpedoes were being loaded into the tubes. Launch! He ordered. The waterbenders bent the torpedoes out of the tubes and sent them flying at the grates, destroying them. They passed through the grates and made their way to the beaches. Everyone waited in silence, but in their minds, they were offering one last prayer to whatever spirit gave them comfort and strength. The subs came up out of the water and hit the beach, despite incoming from the Fire Nation. The front of the subs opened and revealed another of Sokka's and the mechanist's inventions, tanks in the shape of caterpillars powered by earthbending. They took the lead and the soldiers on foot soon followed, screaming battle cries. They quickly got into formation, moving between the tanks for protection. Supply trucks, carrying rocks and water, followed them. One such truck dropped 3 rocks for the Boulder, Hippo and Toph, who hurled them at a battlement tower up on the walls. As this went on, Katara and Appa arrived, ready for the fight. Gates at the sides opened and the Fire Nation's tanks arrived to confront the invasion force. The earth-bending tanks kept moving undeterred. One crushed a battlement tower while another smashed a Fire Nation tank. But despite that, the invasion force was soon surrounded on both sides by Fire Nation tanks. The waterbenders bent water from a nearby supply truck to defend against the bursts of fire thrown at them. Both Tho and Du stepped forward and bent their water at one of the tanks, knocking it sideways and sending it crashing into another one. "We're a man down," Tho stated as he and Du threw another round of water at the tanks. "Where in tarnation is Hugh?" As if to answer his question, a familiar-looking creature made from seaweed appeared out of the water. It quickly demolished a couple of tanks, sending one flying up into a battlement tower. "Hey Hugh!" called out Du. "Where you been?" The seaweed that held the monster together opened a hole, revealing Hugh. "Communing with nature," he answered. "It takes a while to collect this much seaweed." He quickly covered the hole when a ball of fire came at him. A group of Komodo rhino carrying miniature catapults fired burning rocks at a group of Water Tribe warriors. The warriors kept moving, the rocks overshooting themselves. Another group of rhinos charged at them. Sokka didn't focus on what happened to the other warriors. He focused on who was in front of him. He leapt onto the horns of the rhino, sliced the spear the soldier was carrying almost in half, and then plunged his jian into the soldier's heart, killing him. He pulled out the jian and pushed the dead soldier off. "Dad, look out!" he cried. Hakoda had lost his shield due to a fire burst. Another soldier tried to attack him, only to be disarmed and killed by a spear through the chest. Another soldier tried to hit him with a burst of fire, but he blocked him with one spear and stabbed his heart with the other. Two more soldiers came at him. He killed one by throwing one of his spears at him. The other was killed when Akela pulled him to the ground and tore out his throat. Hakoda joined Sokka on the rhino while Akela ran alongside. Meanwhile, the invasion force was having difficulties. The battlement towers kept aiming for the supply trucks, hitting them in the rock or water. A few of the drivers, like the mechanist, got lucky and were blown clear by the blast. Others were caught in the explosion. Hugh's seaweed creature was also being targeted, making it lose an arm. One of the earth-bending tanks was knocked to its side by one of the battlement towers. Unless they got it upright again, the tank was useless. "Sokka, we've got to take out those battlements," Hakoda told him. "It's our only chance." He looked at the battlements. "I've got an idea," he said. He urged the rhino back to the invasion force. "Katara, we need a ride," he called out to his sister. They quickly boarded Appa and he took off and flew at the battlement towers. Hanging from Appa's horn, Sokka drew his jian and cut off the head of the missile launcher at the first tower. Hakoda was next. He armed two small bombs and threw them into the next battlement. The two soldiers who manned the tower tried to get out, but only one of them got lucky. The other one got caught in the explosion and died. Katara stood up on Appa's head. Attached to the sky bison's sides was a barrel each, filled with water. She broke open the barrels and coated her arms with the water. They approached the tower, and she bent the water into it, freezing its occupants and leaving their heads free so they could breathe. Appa landed between two towers and Hakoda, Sokka and Katara leapt off. "You two take out that battlement," he told them, pointing at one of the towers before looking at the other one. "I got this one. Watch each other's backs." He ran to his tower, and they ran towards theirs. "Katara, aim to kill this time," Sokka told her. "What is wrong with you?" she asked him, not believing what she had just heard him say. "You want me to kill people? We're in the middle of invading the Fire Nation capital. Of course, we have to kill people." He sliced through the door and kicked it open. She took over by throwing water at the two soldiers manning the tower, freezing them solid except for their heads. Sokka didn't say anything, he just climbed the ladder and cut the missile launcher in half, causing the half hanging out of the tower to fall off and explode when it hit the rocks below. They ran out of the tower and saw Hakoda climb over the roof of his tower and leaping in. They heard fighting, but also saw an explosion go off. They were scared, but they saw their father stumble out of the tower with smoke billowing out behind him. He staggered forward a few steps, clutching his side, and then collapsed. "Dad?" called Katara, unsure if he would get up. "Dad!" shouted Sokka as the two of them ran over to him. Zuko knelt in front of a picture of his mother. "I know I've made some bad choices," he told her. "But today, I'm gonna set things right." He stood up, grabbed a bag and his swords, and walked out of his room. Over in her room, Azula was kneeling in front of the statuette that the Sand siblings had given her. "I don't know what you thought of me," she told the statuette. "But I'm doing what I think is right. I can only hope that you will forgive me for what I have done to our family." She stood up, took the statuette and the painting that Kori had given her, and hid them away. She walked out of the room and down the corridor. When she turned the corner, she almost ran into Zuko. "Azula," he said, surprised to see her. "Zuko, she replied, just as surprised, but keeping it hidden. "You're doing the same thing?" He couldn't help but ask her. "Yes." He walked past her. "Follow me." Appa flew down next to the subs and landed. Sokka and Katara laid Hakoda down on the ground and Katara started to heal him. "How does that feel, Dad?" she asked him. A little better," he answered. He sat up. "I need to get back to the troops." "You're hurt, badly. You can't fight anymore. Everyone's counting on me to lead this mission, Katara. I won't let them down." He tried to stand up, but the pain stopped him. "Can't you heal him any faster?" Sokka asked Katara. "I'm doing everything I can." He fell silent. He looked back at the fighting and then looked at Akela, who nodded in agreement. "I'll do it," he declared. "No offense, Sokka, but you're not exactly Mr. Healing Hands," his sister told him with the barest amount of sarcasm in her voice. She couldn't help it. "No." He stood back up. "I'll lead the invasion force." "Don't be crazy, Sokka," his sister warned. "Maybe I am a little crazy, but the eclipse is about to start, and we need to be up that volcano by the time it does." They couldn't afford to waste any more time. "You can do this," Hakoda told him. "I'm proud of you, son." There was a quiet pride in his voice, but his children heard it. "I still think you're crazy," Katara said to her brother. "But I'm proud of you too." He put his helmet back on and climbed aboard Appa. Akela joined him. "Yip yip," he told Appa, and the Sky Bison took off. They flew back to the battle, where Fire Nation tanks lay around, either smashed or frozen. Appa landed in front of a Fire Nation tank and knocked it away with his head. Sokka jumped onto his back and turned to face the invasion force. "Listen up, everyone," he called out. "I want the tanks in wedge formation, warriors and benders in the middle. We're taking that tower and heading for the royal palace." The tanks formed up and the foot soldiers got behind them. The remaining supply trucks were in the rear. When all was ready, Sokka drew his Jian. "Charge!" Aang stood on the edge of the volcano before flying down. He flew down to behind a building, attempting to hide. He looked over the edge and saw nothing. No one was in the streets. There wasn't a single sign of life. "That's strange," he noted. But he didn't ponder it. He ran to the royal palace, kicked in the door, and leapt in with the glider staff at the ready. "The Avatar is back," he declared, to an empty hall. "Hello? Anyone home?" he called out. The tanks kept moving forward, regardless of what was thrown at them. Meanwhile, Sokka drove one of the supply trucks that were rigged with explosives at the wall. He leapt off at the last moment before it hit the wall, causing to explode. That left a giant hole in the wall, which the foot soldiers used to charge through and push the enemy back. The Fire Nation is falling back, Tyro declared. Bato heard Appa landed behind him. Sokka, we're on our way to victory, he announced with certainty in his voice. Sokka only looked up at the volcano. It wasn't over yet. Aang leapt through the curtain that led into the throne room. But no one was there either. The empty throne almost seemed to mock him. No, he said, dropping the staff and falling to his knees. No, no, no. Fire Lord Ozai, where are you? I think it's pretty obvious that he's not here, dipshit, a voice rang out in the chamber, getting his attention. He grabbed his staff and whirled around. Who's there? What? You can't remember my voice? You really are an idiot. Naruto walked out from behind a column, showing himself. You? Asked Aang, completely surprised by the blonde's appearance. Me, he answered. How you've been? When was the last time we saw each other? Was it at Wan Shi Tong's library? Or was it in old Ba Sing Se? He asked, taking a thinking pose. Oh. I know. It was at that school that had the dance party. I'm assuming that was your work? You knew I was there? He had known he was there and did nothing to stop him. Yeah, I saw you there. You were the one having the panic attack, Naruto commented like it was nothing important. Why did you let me escape? Why didn't you tell anyone about me? And dash your hope that you might actually emerge victorious in this invasion? Why would I do that when I can just let you find out for yourself? He was becoming confused by the blonde was saying to him. What? What do you mean? Isn't it obvious? Look around. The Fire Paragon gestured widely around the chamber, emphasizing his point. There's no one here. Well, except for us. The Avatar's eyes widened when the realization struck him. You knew we were coming. Correct. I guess you are gaining IQ points after all. Even though it had sounded like a compliment, he made it sound like it was an insult. I've been getting reports about where you and your team were. Always about a group of kids and what they did. So, I've been tracking you and knew you were coming this way. If you knew, why would you let us get this far? If he had known where they had been the entire time, he could have just passed the word on and had them stopped in their tracks. But he didn't. To teach you a lesson, there are no easy ways out. If Aang had been confused before, now he felt like he didn't understand. What are you talking about? You keep trying to take the easy way out every time you face a major situation. Look where it's gotten you. Wandering around the royal palace, demanding the Fire Lord show himself. What, did you think he was just going to stay in one place and wait for you to come to him? Kinda, he grinned foolishly when he answered. The blonde groaned at that answer. About that comment concerning your IQ points, I take it back. Aang's grin fell. Well, why don't you tell me where he is? When he didn't get an answer, he tried to press on. Come on, Naruto, why won't you help us? It's obvious that you don't like things here in the Fire Nation. If you join us, you can help us. He was smashed into a pillar before he could finish. Naruto's hand was gripped around his throat and held it tightly. Watch your mouth, brat. The paragon of the Fire Nation snarled at him. Don't presume you know everything about me. He's gonna kill me. Aang thought in fright. It was the only thought that filled his mind, and he honestly believed it would happen. But to his surprise, his neck was released, and he fell to the ground. As he tried to regain his breath, he looked up at Naruto. I might not like a couple of things about the Fire Nation, but I can deal with them, he told the Airbender. However, all of the things I hate are because of you. Don't ever think it would be simple for me to join you when you can't see what you did. I didn't do anything to the Fire Nation, he instantly protested. They're the ones who are doing horrible things. Don't be so naive. Naruto barked out, his voice filling the hall. It is because of you that places like the river town you visited became polluted, unfit for inhabitation. It is because of you that people like Hama have so much hatred. It is because of you that the schools here teach their students to think what they're doing is right and just. It is because of you that men like Zhao can get more and more power. This entire war is your fault, yours and that bastard Roku. You're wrong. He shouted, leaping up to his feet. This isn't Roku's fault. It's Sozin's. And did Roku told you that? Did he show you his past? He nodded. Yes, he did. He showed me what happened and how Sozin started the war. He then noticed Naruto was trembling. Before he could ask what was wrong, the Paragon began to laugh loudly. His laughter echoed through the throne room and the entire palace. What's so funny? He demanded. The blonde stopped laughing, turned around, and walked away. A little tip for you, Avatar Aang. He said the last two words mockingly. Even your past lives can lie to you. What do you mean? Naruto didn't pay him any attention. He just walked through the entrance to the throne room. Wait. Come back. He raced after him, but once he burst through the curtain and back into the hallway, there was no sign of the Paragon. Where did he go? He asked aloud. Arg, I don't have time to worry about that. He flew down the corridor. Naruto watched him go in silence, hanging from the ceiling. Like it would be that easy for me to join you. He thought to himself. It could be that easy, Kit, the Kyuubi told him. It's not, Kyuubi. I have a duty here in the Fire Nation. And what if that duty was not aligned with the Fire Nation anymore? He didn't reply. Chapter 29, Standoffs and Falling Back. Location, Fire Nation. As the moon slowly crawled in front of the sun, the battle raged on. Hugh and a few others stood guard over the subs while the others were trying to make their way up the volcano. For now, the movement had come to a standstill. Fire Nation catapults were hurling flaming rocks at the invasion force, trying to destroy the invasion tanks while a few of their own tanks gave support. The invasion tanks had been put end to end, creating a protective wall. The sides opened and earthbenders would bend rocks at the enemy. If they didn't have a rock handy, they could still move the earth to unsettle any enemy heavy equipment. They used that tactic on a few of the enemy's tanks. Behind the wall of tanks, Sokka coordinated with Bato and the leader of the Earth Kingdom soldiers. A rock from one of the enemy catapults smashed down nearby. He raised his hand halfway to his head to protect it if any big rocks came down. When he opened his eyes, he saw something that was both a surprise and a relief. Dad. He said with a smile. Hakoda was coming through the gate, supported by Katara. You're on your feet again. He came over to them with Toph joining them. Thanks to your sister, Hakoda told him as he sat down on a nearby rock. I'm in no shape to fight, but maybe there's some way I can help. Everything's going smoothly, he told his father, kneeling in front of him. And the eclipse hasn't even kicked in yet. Let's hope our luck holds out. He noticed Katara had stepped away. Katara, you seem distracted. Is something wrong? He asked his daughter. She looked up at the sky, tracking a flying object. Yeah, is that Aang? What? Sokka asked, looking up. Sure enough, Aang was flying towards them, dodging rocks and fireballs before landing in front of them. Please tell me you're here, because the Fire Lord turned out to be a big wimp, and you didn't even need the eclipse to take him down, he practically begged. He wasn't home, Aang said in reply. No one was. The entire palace city is abandoned. The only person I met there was Naruto. A look of both shock and surprise passed over the Water Paragon's face. He knew. They knew. Mentally, he began to chastise himself. Of course, Naruto would know. He had been to Wan Shirtong's library long before they had. It's over. The Fire Lord is probably long gone, far away on some remote island where he'll be safe during the eclipse, the Avatar said in a defeated voice. No, my instincts tell me he wouldn't go too far, the tribesman objected quietly, thinking it over. He would have a secret bunker, somewhere he could go and be safe during the siege, but still be close enough to lead his nation. If it's an underground secret bunker we're looking for, I'm just the girl for the job, Toph declared, pointing at herself. The mechanist gave me this timing device. He pulled out said device and looked at it. It looks like we've got about 10 minutes until the eclipse. 10 minutes to find the Fire Lord. We can still do this, Aang said with conviction in his voice. We can still win the day. Wait, Katara said. If they knew we were coming, it could all be a trap. Maybe we should use the time we have left to make sure we all get out of here safely, she told Sokka. That might be the best choice, he agreed. Especially if Naruto knew we were coming. If the blonde was waiting for them, things would become much, much more difficult. Everyone who's here today came prepared to risk everything for this mission, Hakoda told them. They know what's at stake. If there's still a chance and there's still hope, I think they would want Aang to go for it. What do you think? Sokka asked Aang. You're the one who has to face the Fire Lord. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. The Avatar stood up and faced the volcano. I need to try, he declared. I guess that settles it. He stood up. Toph and I will go with him in Appa. Appa. Katara, you stay here with Dad. Akela, stay with them and protect them. The wolf nodded in agreement. Aang, Sokka and Toph quickly boarded Appa and took off, flying to the volcano. But instead of landing in the city, they landed on the side of the volcano. Do you feel anything down there? Aang asked Toph as she felt the earth. Yep, she answered, kneeling on the ground and feeling the earth with her hand. There are natural tunnels crisscrossing through the inside of the volcano. Anything else? Asked Sokka. Is there a structure somewhere? She slammed her hands into the earth, getting an extra feel. There's something big, dense and made of metal deep in the heart of the volcano. Sounds like a secret bunker to me, he stated. She didn't reply, she simply bent open a hole that led into one of the tunnels. Stay safe. We'll be back soon, Aang told Appa and Momo before the humans went into the hole. She checked the earth again once they were in the tunnel. This way, that one's a dead end. She told them, running down the tunnel. What would we do without you? Sokka asked her as they ran. Perish in burning hot magma, she answered in complete deadpan. Yeah, pretty much, he agreed after looking a small amount of magma flow slowly down a current. They kept moving until they enter a chamber that magma erupting from several spots on the ground. The tunnel continues on the other side. And it leads right to the bunker, she told them. We'll have to be fast, but careful. The tribesman started to move forward, but was caught off guard when magma erupted right in front of him. Aang quickly cooled the magma with a blast of air. How is that careful? He asked Sokka. I was wrong. We need to be fast, careful and lucky. They charged through the chamber, dodging magma that shot up from the ground. They made it through, but what was in the next chamber stopped them. There's no floor, Sokka stated as he looked at what was in front of them. It's just a river of lava. Aang simply opened his gilder. Climb aboard and hold on tight, he ordered the other two. While he flew across the river of lava, dodging the bubbles that would pop and spray lava, the others were holding on for dear life and screaming for dear life too. But in the end, they managed to make it to the other side and just kept on running. They soon came across something that got their attention. That's some door, Sokka declared. Said door was big and attached to what looked to be a metal sphere half buried in the rock. Toph walked up to the door and knocked on it, testing out the metal. Not a problem, she stated before backing up. She lunged forward and bent the metal, first using her elbows to dent it and then using her fingers to bend the dent open, creating a hole in the door. She stepped and pointed forward before charging off. "I am so glad we added you to the group," Sokka told her as he and Aang followed. The battle was pushed forward. The invasion force was slowly, but surely making their way up the mountain path that led into the volcano. The Fire Nation forces tried to stop them, but they weren't having much luck. The battlement towers tried to hit the foot soldiers, but they were carrying shields over their heads and letting them overlap. The boulder and the hippo took care of the battlement towers by slamming their hands on the side of the mountain and bending the earth underneath the tower to collapse, making it fall. Other earthbenders repeated the idea. The captain who was in command of the defense looked back at the sun. "Retreat! Everyone, move to the secondary positions. Retreat!" he ordered. The soldiers did as they were ordered, running back up the mountain. The eclipse is only minutes away, Bato addressed the invasion force. "We should be able to make up the hill by the time it starts and secure the entire palace when it's finished." The soldiers cheered at that declaration. "We can wait here, if you want," Katara offered Hakoda. "No," he replied. "I want to press forward with the others." She helped him walk. Akela kept close to their side. War Minister Chin walked through the tunnels, whistling. When he saw the Avatar and his friends come out of the other tunnel, he let out a gasp of surprise. They heard the gasp, turned around and readied themselves for a fight. He raised his hands in surrender. "The Fire Lord's chamber is that way, down the hall, to the left and up the stairs, you can't miss it," he told them. They crowded around and gave him a glare. "Thanks," Aang told him with a small smile. They took off, leaving War Minister Chin alone. He put his hands down, took a quick look around and walked away, taking part in a time-honored tradition. He pretended not to see a damn thing. As they ran down the tunnel, Sokka checked the eclipse timer again. Only 30 seconds until the total eclipse, he warned everyone. They soon came to the door that led to the Fire Lord. Aang took a deep breath. "I'm ready," he declared. "I'm ready to face the Fire Lord." He blasted the doors open with his air bending. They came into the chamber, but it wasn't Ozai on the throne. The person waiting for them looked unfamiliar to the group entering the chamber, but her slight facial expression gave off a frightening aura. "So, you are still alive," Yao Jing mused from where she lounged in the chair. "I guess my aim was a little off." "Wait, you were the one who shot me in Ba Sing Se?" Aang asked, stunned. He had thought Zuko or Azula had been the one to do it. "Well, I had meant to kill you," she commented offhandedly. "Who the hell are you?" Sokka demanded. "What? You mean to tell me that my little brother and sister didn't tell you about me?" "I'm hurt." "You're their older sister." "No, wait," he said, cutting her off before she could speak. "You look different from them. You're not their actual sister, are you?" "Oh, it seems the little peasant from the chunk of ice they call the South Pole seems to think he's clever," she mocked. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Yao Jing, eldest child to Fire Lord Ozai and half-sister to Zuko and Azula." "So that would make you the illegitimate one then. You have quite the mouth, don't you? But it doesn't matter now, I've known about the invasion for months." He laughed at that. "No, you didn't, Naruto knew, and somehow, I don't think he would have told you." All three of them saw the flash of rage in her eyes when she heard that. Zuko and Azula stood outside a door in the tunnels. "I'm ready to face you," Zuko thought to himself. "Let's get on with it," he said aloud. "Yeah," Azula agreed. He slid the door open, and they walked into the Fire Lord's safety room. Ozai sat behind a line of Imperial firebenders carrying pikes. He was about to take a sip of tea when his children walked into the room. "Zuko, Azula, what are you doing here?" he asked them. As they climbed up the volcano, the Mechanist took notice of the sun. The eclipse is starting, he announced. Put on your eclipse glasses. Everyone did as they were ordered. They continued climbing upward, while Katara and Hakoda looked at the eclipse. The moon covered the sun, truly making it black. Why are you two here? Ozai repeated himself. We're here to tell the truth, Zuko told him. Telling the truth during the middle of an eclipse. This should be interesting. He waved the guards away. They turned and quickly left through side exits, closing the doors behind them. First of all, in Ba Sing Se, it was Yao Jing who took down the Avatar, not me or Azula, his son told him. Why would she lie to me about that? He knew for a fact that his bastard daughter wouldn't lie about that. Because the Avatar is not dead, Azula told him. He survived. What? Asked Ozai, shocked to hear that little piece of information. He's probably leading this invasion. He could be on his way here right now, Zuko agreed. Get out. Their father roared, standing up and pointing at the door. Both of you get out of my sight if you know what's good for you. That's another thing. I'm not taking orders from you anymore, the scarred dragon said in defiance. Neither am I, Azula agreed. You will obey me, or this defiant breath will be your last. The Fire Lord began to walk down the steps, only to stop when Zuko drew his swords and Azula her daggers. Think again. I am going to speak my mind and you are going to listen, Zuko ordered. Ozai knew that he would be defeated if he tried to attack his children now. So, he sat back down. Where is he? Aang demanded. Where is the Fire Lord? You mean I'm not good enough for you? Yao Jing asked as she stood up from the chair. You're hurting my feelings. Stop wasting our time and give us the information, Sokka ordered, pointing his Jian at her. You're powerless right now, so you're in no position to refuse. And stick to the truth, Toph told her. I'll be able to tell if you're lying. Are you sure? I'm a pretty good liar, Yao Jing said, walking forward a few steps. I am 400-foot-tall purple platypus bear with pink horns and silver wings. Okay, you're good, I admit it. She bent the floor to rise up and trap her. But you really ought to consider telling the truth anyway. Without any warning, the hold she was in started to crack and collapse, surprising the other three. When I left Ba Sing Se, I stole a few toys from my sister and convinced them to my way of thinking, the bastard daughter of the Fire Lord told them with nonchalance, wiping the rock dust off her armor. From above, two men in very familiar clothes landed. I believe you know the Dai Li agents. How in the name of the spirits did you do that? Sokka asked in disbelief. The Dai Li are among the toughest people out there. I'm very persuasive, she answered with a smirk. But somehow, the tribesmen didn't believe it. After being initially surprised, Aang bent a gust of wind at them. The Dai Li stopped it by bending an earth wall together. They had made up the mountain and now stood on the edges. Surround the periphery. Bato ordered. We have to secure the palace by the time the eclipse is over. Otherwise, we'll be in for the fight of our lives. The tanks and the foot soldiers came down into the city quickly. However, there were still Fire Nation soldiers trying to defend their home. Stop. Ordered Tyro. Surrender peacefully, and we won't harm you. We'll never surrender. One of the soldiers declared. He tried to bend fire at them, but only got a puff of smoke. Okay, we surrender. There it is, the Fire Nation Royal Palace, Hakoda said as he and Katara walked to the edge of the volcano. We've come so far. It's not over yet, Katara told him as they walked down the rim. Aang and the others still had to get to the Fire Lord. For so long, all I wanted was for you to love me, to accept me, Zuko told Ozai. I thought it was my honor I wanted. But really, I was just trying to please you. You, my father, who banished me just for speaking out of turn. My father, who challenged me, a 13-year-old boy, to an Agni Kai. How could you possibly justify a duel with a child? he demanded, pointing one of his swords at the Fire Lord. It was to teach you respect. Ozai told him. It was cruel. He challenged. And it was wrong. Then you've learned nothing. No, I've learned everything. And I had to learn it on my own. Growing up, we were taught that the Fire Nation was the greatest civilization in history. And somehow, the war was our way of sharing our greatness with this side of the planet. What an amazing lie, Azula remarked. Truly, she had believed all through her childhood. It wasn't until Naruto came and opened her eyes. Her brother nodded, having had the same eye-opening experience, albeit from exile. The people from this side of the planet are terrified by the Fire Nation. They don't see our greatness. They hate us. And we deserve it. We've created an era of fear for this side of the planet, she told Ozai. And if we don't want it destroyed, we need to replace it with an era of peace and kindness. The Fire Lord laughed at those words. Your uncle has gotten to you both, hasn't he? Yes, he has, Zuko told him with a proud smile. Not only him, but Naruto too, Azula said. What they said only made Ozai angrier. Aang rushed forward, destroying the wall the agents made. They responded by bending the stone to rise into another wall. He jumped up and leapt off a steel column, landing on the other side. The agents bent up a chunk of rock each and threw at him, which he destroyed with 2 heavy kicks. As this happened, Toph burst through the wall and landed, sending the agents into the wall via 2 rock columns. They reacted by landing on the walls and sending their own columns at her. She blocked them by bending 2 slabs up to protect her. She then sent a rock line at Yao Jing, who leapt off in a backflip, using the rock line as her jumping point. She landed in front of the throne and Aang went after her. One of the Dai Li agents noticed and followed. He leapt off the wall and bent another wall to come up from the floor. Aang leapt into the air and kicked through, making a hole. As he sent the agent flying into the ceiling and taking him out of the fight, he bent a blast of air at Yao Jing, who dodged it and let it destroy the throne. She ran off to the side, where he sent another air blast at her. She dodged it by running up one of the columns and backflipped off it. She then ran past the second wall and towards the first. Aang chased after her, with Toph joining in the chase. The remaining Dai Li agent realized what she was going to do, and helped her by bending a column underneath her feet, giving her the extra momentum to jump through the hole in the wall. What she didn't expect to see was Sokka waiting for her when she landed. He lunged forward, trying to catch her as she landed. But even though she was caught off guard, she reacted with ease. She twisted herself away from the lunge and landed in a crouch. Sokka realized what she was about to do and tried to back away, but she knocked his legs from underneath him, sending him to the ground. She took off, running to the door. The agent had followed her through the hole, as did Toph and Aang. I can't pin her down, Aang told Toph as they ran after them. She's too quick. Toph faded off to the side when she heard that. Yao Jing ran through the door and the agent followed, bending the earth to block the door. Aang broke through with ease and continued chasing the two. The agent was knocked to the side by column jutting out of the wall and Toph coming out of a hole in the wall. He was sent flying into a crevice of a metal beam. He tried to get out, but Toph blocked him and ensured he'd stay there by bending the metal tightly against him. Now that only leaves her, Sokka thought. You need to stop and think. A voice in his head commanded him, almost making him stop in his tracks. Think about what she's trying to make you do. Although he didn't know who or what the voice was, he realized what he was talking about. Wait, Aang, Toph. He cried out, making everyone stop. Stop attacking. Don't you see what she's doing? She's just playing with us. She's not even trying to win this fight. Oh, that's untrue, Yao Jing said. I'm doing the best that I can. You're trying to keep us here and waste our all time. Toph declared, pointing her finger at her. I believe your friend just said that, genius. And since you're blind, I'll tell you that I'm rolling my eyes, she said with a smirk. I'll roll your whole head. Sokka stopped the blind earthbender from attacking. She's just baiting you again. Okay, so what do we do? Just ignore her? Aang asked him. We don't have a choice. We just have to get out of here and find the Fire Lord on our own somehow. The three of them turned around and started walking away. It's a trap. Don't say I didn't warn you, Yao Jing said. Ignore. Sokka ordered his friends. So Sokka's your name, right? She asked him. My favorite prisoner used to mention you all the time. This made him stop and look back. She was convinced you were going to rescue her. Of course, you never came, and she gave up on you. You can't believe how much fun it was torturing her. Beating her, giving her burn wounds, making her go days without food, it all gave me such a rush, she said that last part with a half-crazed grin. Too bad my father didn't allow me to resort to such more persuasive measures. When he heard all this, Sokka began to shed tears. The voice in his mind spoke again, this time with fury in its voice. She dares to think she can do all of that to our mate and think she can get away with it? Put her on her knees. Make her beg for mercy. It roared. He roared as well, charging at her. Come and get it, she said to herself, flicking a knife into her hand. However, she forgot that Toph could sense such things. She bent a rock up from the ground and pinned her to the wall with it attaching itself to her wrist. Before she could even try to struggle, Sokka was already on her. Where is Suki? He growled. Though she looked expressionless on the outside, inside she was scared. Behind Sokka, she saw an image of a black wolf looking at her with the promise of a painful and a gory death. After we leave here today, Zuko told Ozai. I'm going to free Uncle Iroh from his prison, and I'm gonna beg for his forgiveness. He's the one who has been a real father to me. He had been the one to keep an eye on him during his exile. Oh, that's just beautiful, Ozai replied with a chuckle. And maybe he can pass down to you the ways of tea and failure. We've also come to a more important decision, Azula said. We're gonna join with the Avatar, and we're going to help him defeat you. Really? Asked the Fire Lord. Since you're both full-blown traitors now, and you want me gone, why wait? I'm powerless. You've got your swords and your daggers. Why don't you just do it now? We know our own destiny. Taking you down is the Avatar's destiny, Zuko said as he sheathed his swords and Azula sheathed her daggers. Goodbye. They turned around and walked away. Cowards. Spat Ozai. You think you both are brave enough to face me, but you'll only do it during the eclipse. He stood up. If the two of you have any real courage, you'll stick around until the sun comes out. Don't you want to know what happened to your mother? That question made the two of them stop and turn back around to face him, making him smile. What happened that night? Azula asked him. This was information that they couldn't pass up. One night, their mother had disappeared and the next day, the previous Fire Lord had died. My father, Fire Lord Azulon, commanded me to do the unthinkable to you, my own son, he said, looking at Zuko. And I was going to do it. Your mother found out and swore she would protect you at any cost. She knew I wanted the throne, and she proposed a plan in which I would become Fire Lord and your life would be spared. Where's Suki? Sokka demanded of Yao Jing. She didn't say a word. Answer me. Sokka, she won't talk, Aang told his friend. Where are you keeping her? He yelled at her, the black wolf behind him bared its fangs and began to snarl. She smiled smugly and kept her mouth shut. But it was all she could do, not openly panic and beg them not to let the wolf get her. In her mind, she kept thinking about Chun's photo, holding on to it like a lifeline. Your mother did vicious, treasonous things that night, Ozai told his children. She knew the consequences and accepted them. For her treason, she was banished. So, she's alive? Zuko asked with relief in his voice, tears of happiness falling down his face. Thank you, Agni, Azula silently and gratefully thanked the spirit. If she's still alive, then we can find her. Perhaps, Ozai admitted. Now I realize that banishment is far too merciful a penalty for treason. He closed his eyes. The penalty for the both of you will be far steeper. As he felt the eclipse ending, he generated lightning and threw it at Zuko. He caught it and was pushed back by the force of it. How dare him? A voice in his head, one didn't sound like the blue spirit or his younger self, said in outrage. He would dare to throw the wrath of the heavens at his own child. Return it to him in full force. Believe me, he answered silently, not even wondering who the voice was. I was planning on it. He redirected the lightning back at Ozai, sending him flying back into the Fire Nation banner behind him, setting it ablaze. You would dare do this to your own father? He shouted at the scarred dragon, standing up from where he fell. The fire grew up around him, like a protective barrier. Father? Asked Azula in growing outrage. What father? What father would raise his children to believe that power is the only thing that matters in the world? What father would willingly attempt to murder his own son and banish his wife just so he could obtain the throne? What father would burn a woman, leaving her scarred beyond any help of healing, just because she wanted to see her daughter for one day? What kind of father is that? I had always thought you were the stronger of my children, Azula, he said to her. Will you prove me right and do your duty, as the daughter of the Fire Lord? Her response was to reach up and undo the headpiece, letting her hair fall down. She grabbed most of it in a tight grip and with the other hand, drew a dagger and sawed it off. She took the cut hair and threw into the fire. Her hair was now in the rough shape of a bob cut. You are not my father anymore, she declared. As Ozai just looked at the burning hair in stunned shock, both she and Zuko ran out of the room. Oh, it sounds like the fire bending is back on, Yao Jing remarked. She forced Sokka back with a sweep of her leg bending an arc of fire. She sent another fireball at him. Toph pushed him out of the way, saving both. She black-flipped onto the cuffs and broke free of them using her fire bending. She flipped forward and made Aang jump away with a flaming kick. Dad's all the way at the end of the hall, then down a secret stairway on the left. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to see you now. She ran away. Silently, she was glad to be away from that black wolf. I fell for it. Sokka realized, completely too late. I used up all our time. It's not your fault, Sokka, Toph told him. She was ready for us. She had every move planned out. And now it's too late. Maybe it's not too late, Aang said. The eclipse is over. But I can face the Fire Lord anyway. No. That's not a good idea, the tribesman told him. But I'm ready. He protested. I came here with a job to do and everyone's counting on me. Naruto knew we were coming and so did the Fire Lord, Toph said. We thought we had surprise on our side, but we didn't. It just wasn't our day. What we need to do now is go help our friends. I guess you guys are right, he admitted, seeing the reasoning. You'll have another chance, Sokka told him. I know you will. They quickly made their way through the tunnels, trying to get out the way they came. I am sorry about what I did back there, the voice told him. I gave her enough time to delay. Who are you? Sokka asked silently. You still can't hear my name? The voice seemed to sigh. It's not important now, you need to focus. All was silent as they waited for something. Katara helped her father lean against one of the tanks, taking off the eclipse glasses. What should we do, Hakoda? Bato asked. Shouldn't something has happened by now? I don't know, Hakoda answered. But now that the eclipse is over, I expect we're going to see some firebenders any minute. Bato took a quick look up and was surprised at what he saw. Katara saw his surprise and turned in the direction he was looking. Behind the royal palace, several hot air balloons were rising in the air. "My own invention!" cried the mechanist in horror. "Oh, this is terrible!" But the worst had yet to come. Behind the war balloons, 5 airships with bronze dragon heads at the helm rose up behind them. They were much, much bigger than the 2-man crew of the war balloons. Katara then heard a familiar sound. "They're back!" she cried, pointing at the incoming Appa. His passengers, the one who could see anyway, looked at what was in the air with dismay. The sky bison landed in front of Katara. It was all a trap, Sokka told his sister as he and Toph got off of Appa. Naruto had planned every move. "We've just got to get the beach as fast as we can. If we can make it to the submarines, maybe we can get away safely. They've got air power, but so do I," Aang said, opening up his glider. "I'm gonna do what I can to slow them down." He took off into the air. "Appa, you and I can help too," Katara told the sky bison, jumping on. They took off after him, and they both flew up at the war balloons. "Everyone, let's get to the subs," Sokka ordered, making everyone start running back the way they came. Aang approached one of the war balloons. After dodging most of the fireballs sent at him, he closed the glider and went through the balloon itself, tearing a hole in it and making it lose altitude. Katara approached another one on Appa. She bent her water to slice the balloon in half, making that one fall as well. They tried to get close to the airships, but the firebenders stationed out on the outside platforms of said airships sent a continuous barrage of fire at them, forcing them back. "We can't keep them all back," Katara shouted at Aang as she bent her water into a shield, fending off the fireballs. "There are too many of them. Let's join the others," Aang shouted back. They flew towards the invasion force, which was still trying to make it back to the subs. Zuko and Azula ran into the prison, which looked like it was the site of a battle. They went past several guards who cowered in fear as they ran by them. "Uncle!" cried Zuko as he stopped in front of Iroha's cell. It was empty, save for the unconscious guard. The cell looked like something had burst it open. "Where's our uncle?" he demanded of the guard, grabbing hold of his shirt. "He's gone," the guard answered as a look of fear came onto his face. He busted himself out. "I've never seen anything like it." He was like a one-man army. Zuko let go of the guard and he and Azula ran out of the cell. "We need to get out of here," Azula told him as they raced through the corridors. "Ozai's not going to take our defection lightly. Especially if Yao Jing is there to spur him on," Zuko agreed. "I've got a war balloon nearby. We can use it to go follow the Avatar when he runs." "How do you know he's going to run?" she asked him. "He always does. Anyway, I don't know when soldiers are going to arrive, but we need to." His words stopped as he and Azula stepped out of the prison. "Leave right away," he finished weakly. Standing in front of the prison were soldiers. If he had to guess, there were enough to form 2 platoons. That was a lot of men. "Seems like Ozai wants to make sure we stay," she remarked with a dry sarcasm. "Detain the traitors." The captain ordered them all. They all took a stance and stepped forward. "Jet propulsion?" suggested Zuko quietly. "If you're up to it," she answered. "We jump at the gate." "Call it." 3, 2, 1, go. They charge at the soldiers, who were ready to fight. What they got instead was Zuko and Azula leaping over them, using their fire bending to push them further. They landed on the other side of the soldiers. They kept running and they could hear them coming after them. It wasn't until they heard 2 swords clanging against each other did they stop and turn. "Lord Naruto, what are you doing?" the captain cried at the blonde, shocked into stillness. Naruto had his Jian out and had blocked one of the soldiers with a sword drawn. That in turn made everyone stop and look at him. My job, he answered before disengaging and jumping back, landing next to Zuko and Azula. You two, get out of here. Go follow the idiot, he ordered. How did you know? Azula asked him. How could he have known that they were planning to leave? I know you two, he replied without taking his eyes off the soldiers. Now go. I'll hold them off for as long as I can. No. She instantly protested. You can come with us. We can get out of here, all of us. He just turned and looked at her. When did you cut your hair? He asked. Don't change the subject, Naruto. You don't have to. She was interrupted when Naruto kissed her. She just went into shutdown at the feeling of his lips meeting hers. When he broke it, a small part of her was disappointed. Don't worry. I won't be gone for long. We'll talk once I'm back, all right? He told her before looking at her brother. Zuko, you two have to leave now. The scarred dragon nodded in agreement, took Azula's hand, and ran. After stumbling a few steps, she regained her balance, yanked her hand out of his, and ran alongside him. Now then, Naruto said, turning back to face the soldiers, where were we? Please, Lord Naruto, don't do this, the captain begged. If you continue, I'll have no choice but to arrest you. I've served beside you, sir. I've fought by your side. Don't make me do this. Naruto heard the uncertainty underneath his begging. A lot of the soldiers facing him felt the same. And while he was glad they thought of him so, he couldn't let it in doubt. You have your duty, Captain, and I have mine, he replied, shifting into a stance. You know, you should be glad that Iroh isn't here, the Kyuubi commented. And why is that? He asked silently. He would be laughing his ass off at the irony. No, he'd be sitting on his ass, drinking tea, and then he would have been laughing. Fair point, Kit, the fox admitted. They didn't say anything else as Naruto threw himself at the soldiers. He wasn't going to kill any of them, he had seen enough dead people to last him a lifetime. He was just going to stall them. Everyone ran down the mountain path, trying to get away from the capital. Sokka looked back to see the airships flying over the ridge of the volcano. Try and find cover. He ordered the invasion force when he saw that hatches were opening on the bottom of the airships. I think we're about to see some bombs. Aang, Katara, and Appa landed down next to him. Toph bent a large slab of rock to jut out over their heads to protect them. The action was repeated with other groups. The bombs began to fall, causing big explosions where they hit the ground. A couple of the bombs hit the slab, causing it to crack. It would have fallen on top of them, had Toph not stabilized it with rock columns. The tanks kept going down the mountainside, despite the bombs. Once they had delivered their payload, the airships kept on flying. Why aren't they turning around to attack us again? Katara asked. They're headed for the beach, Aang noted, before realizing what that meant. They're going to destroy the submarines. How are we all going to escape? Sokka asked. If the subs were destroyed, they would be completely trapped. We're not, Hakoda answered, being helped forward by Bato. He turned to face his father. Then our only choice is to stand and fight. We have the Avatar, we could still win. Yes, with the Avatar we could still win, on another day. He took his hand off Bato, standing on his own. You kids have to leave. You have to escape on Appa together. He ordered them all. What? Katara asked, surprised by her father's words. We can't leave you behind. We won't leave anyone behind. You're our only chance in the long run, he told her. You and Sokka have to go with Aang somewhere safe. It's the only way to keep hope alive. The youngest of our group should go with you, Bato suggested. The adults will stay behind and surrender. We'll be prisoners, but we'll all survive this battle. I've got some experience with Fire Nation prisons, Tyro said, joining the conversation. It's not going to be easy, but we'll get by. They're at the beach already. Sokka exclaimed, getting everyone's attention. The airships flew over Hugh and the others and began dropping bombs. Though and Do tried to destroy the bombs using their waterbending. Hugh tried to bend his monster to catch the bombs and throw them away. But one of the bombs hit his left arm, destroying it. Another landed on its head and went through. The swamp monster exploded and sent seaweed everywhere. Both Do and Do had a giant clump land on them. While they were stuck, the clump also had Hugh, who was unharmed, save for a few burns. The rest of the bombs struck the submarines, completely destroying them. Everyone on the mountain path could only watch as it happened. They decided to go with the idea of the kids escaping. Toph helped the mechanist put Teo in Appa's saddle. "Bye, son," the mechanist said. "Bye, Dad." "I'm really proud of you," Teo said, hugging his father. Toph dropped the earth column the mechanist was standing on back into the rock, taking the mechanist with it. The Duke tried to climb up Appa himself. He was holding onto Appa's horn and was going to fall had Pipsqueak not helped him up. "I'll miss you, Pipsqueak," he said. "Take care, the Duke," Pipsqueak replied. "We'll be back for you, Dad," Haru told Tyro, hugging him. "If we don't escape on our own first," Tyro said. His son smiled and bowed to him. "We lost today," Hakoda told his children before kneeling to them. "But we've never been this close. We tasted victory and that counts for something." "We'll miss you, Dad," Katara told him, giving him a hug. "Bye, Dad," Sokka joined in the hug. "We won't be apart for too long this time, I promise." "Hey, can someone do me a favor?" Toph asked everyone there. "What is it?" Bato asked back. "If you guys see the hippo or the boulder, tell them." She looked away so no one could see the tears glistening in her eyes. "Tell them I was happy to see them again." "We will, Toph," he told her. Sokka and Katara got aboard Appa. Katara walked up to Aang, who was crying. He looked at her, sniffed, wiped his tears away, and stood up to address the ones who were staying behind. "Thank you all for being so brave and so strong," he told them. "I'm gonna make this up to you." He sat back down on Appa's head while Katara got back in the saddle. The Sky Bison took off, leaving the adults behind. As they flew away, an airship appeared behind them. "Should we follow them, my lady?" a soldier asked Yao Jing. "No, they're too fast," she answered. "Besides, just let the cowards run. They'll be back." Everyone on Appa took notice of the airship behind. When it didn't follow them, Aang turned to face the others. "I know just the place to go where we'll be safe for a while, the Western Air Temple," he told them. He urged Appa on. He tried to focus, but in his mind, Naruto's words kept repeating themselves. There are no easy ways out. Unbeknownst to them, a war balloon followed them, carrying a brother and sister. Naruto stood in the middle of the soldiers. Many of them were all lying on the ground, groaning in pain. He was a little better off, but not by much. His whole body felt bruised and numb. "Nice going, guys," he told them. "You fought hard and did everything you could. I don't think I could last another round like that." Hearing footsteps charging towards him, he saw more soldiers standing before him, reinforcing the few that remained on their feet. From the looks of things, there had to be at least 4 platoons worth of men facing him. I just had to say it. "Lord Naruto, stand down," the new captain ordered, his tone unyielding. While he hadn't served under the blonde, he knew enough to think of him as a hero. In a different situation, he would have been honored to meet him. But now he was a traitor. That meant he would be dealt with as a traitor should. The soldiers on the ground were starting to get back to their feet. As they joined the fresh men, their eyes were weary but resolute. What would come next would hurt, both physically and emotionally. But they did it once and would do it. Everyone waited for what came next. The silence was so thick with tension that one couldn't even cut through it with a knife. Then Naruto did what the soldiers did not expect. "I surrender," he said aloud. His Jian dropped and his hands raised up over his head. His body, realizing that it wasn't fighting anymore, bombarded him with new information. He hurt a lot. "Arrest him," the captain ordered. A couple of the soldiers ran forward and forced the blonde to his knees. He didn't resist. Chapter 30, Regroup and Offers. Location, Team Avatar. They were walking. Appa, still clad in his armor, walked behind them. No one said a word. No one wanted to. The sting of failing to defeat the Fire Lord when he was weakest was continuing hit them on the backs of their heads. "This is humiliating," Katara finally said. "You mean getting thoroughly beaten by the Fire Nation, or having to walk all the way to the Western Air Temple?" Sokka asked her half sarcastically. Akela, still in armor as well, rolled his eyes. "Both," she answered. "They probably would have managed to reach their destination by now if they were flying." "Sorry, guys," Aang said. "But Appa gets tired carrying all these people." He gave the Sky Bison a scratch. The armor was also a factor as it was weighing down on the Sky Bison. They kept walking the same pace, heading towards a hopeful safe place. "I wonder how the rest of the troops are doing," Teo said aloud as he pushed himself forward. "They're probably on their way to a prison," Haru told him. "Seems like my dad just got out, and now he's going back in." The bitterness couldn't be more obvious. "I miss Pipsqueak," the Duke declared. "I miss not having blisters on my feet," Sokka replied. He had gotten so used to flying on Appa again, even after they had lost him in the desert. "Hey, we're here," Toph declared, stopping at the edge of a cliff. "I can feel it." Everyone else saw the edge of a cliff. I think your feet need their eyes checked," Katara told her. All the waterbender could see was the abyss nestled in between the two cliffs and the clouds that hovered in the abyss. "No, she's right," Aang said, recognizing where they were. "We are here." Sokka looked around but still didn't see it. He saw the same thing as his sister. "Wow, it's amazing," Toph declared. The air nomads who built the Western Air Temple were quite possibly an odd bunch. Instead of finding a mountain to build their temple, they decided to build it in a cliffside, putting the actual buildings of the temple upside down. Thankfully, however, the floor plan and statues were built correctly and in the right direction. What the team didn't know was that Zuko and Azula were there as well, albeit further away. Zuko threw a rope down the side of the cliff, and they slid down it, aiming for a nearby platform. Once they were close to the platform, they swung off the rope and landed on the platform, one at a time. Zuko looked up at the statue of the female airbender that were lined up against the wall before looking out over the edge. He had been here before, 3 years ago. Flashback, 3 years ago. "What a stunning view," Iroh said as he looked out over the edge. "The only view I'm interested in is the Avatar in chains," Zuko told him. A bandage was over his eye, covering the new scar he had received from his father. "You know, the Avatar hasn't been seen for 100 years. The chances of finding him here are very slim," the Dragon of the West told his nephew with a cautious tone of voice. "First we'll check each of the air temples, then we'll scour this side of the planet, searching even the remote location until we find him. Prince Zuko, it's only a week since your banishment. You should take time to heal and rest." He turned to face his uncle. "What else would I expect to hear from the laziest man in the Fire Nation?" Iroh sighed in defeat. "The only way to regain my honor is to find the Avatar, so I will." End flashback. He groaned and pinched the bridge of his nose. I was such an idiot. What would have happened if he had listened to his uncle more and less to the stubborn and misguided call for regaining honor? "What is it, Zuko?" Azula asked him, snapping him out of his thoughts. Just embracing the irony, he told her. "I started my search for the Avatar here." "I see." They both heard the lowing of a familiar beast. Moving quickly to hide behind the statue, they watch as the sky bison landed. Should we show ourselves? She asked her brother. He looked at her and shook his head. No, for now, let's go and set up a camp in the woods. They moved away towards the nearby stairs, trying to get away from the temple. It's so different from the Northern Air Temple, Teo said as he and the Duke looked around. For one thing, they were under a cliff, not on top of a mountain. I wonder if there are any secret rooms. Let's go check it out, Haru suggested, wanting to satisfy his curiosity and not think about what was happening with his father. He went further into the temple with Teo and the Duke. Aang tried to follow but was blocked by his staff in Katara's hands. You guys go, she told the others. I think we need to talk about some things. They nodded and went off, helping Teo up the stairs. I'll race you, Duke, Haru offered as Teo took off once he was at the top of the stairs. I told you, it's the Duke. He replied as they ran after the wheel-bound person. Why can't I go? Aang asked Katara. He really wanted to explore the temple with the others. We need to decide what we're going to do now, she explained. And since you're the Avatar, maybe you should be a part of this. He walked over to a block of stone and sat down. Fair enough, so what's the new plan? The others sat around on blocks of stone as well, effectively creating a circle. The new plan is the old plan, Sokka told him. You just have to master all 4 elements and confront the Fire Lord before the comet comes. Oh yeah, that's great. No problem. I'll just do that, he replied sarcastically, fiddling with a pebble. Aang, no one said it was going to be easy, Katara said. Well, it's not even going to be possible. He instantly protested. Where am I supposed to get a fire-bending teacher? We could look for Zhong Zhong, he suggested. Yeah, right, like we'll ever run into Zhong Zhong again. They were more likely to get lost in the forest than find him again. Whose? Toph began to ask, only to stop. Oh, never mind. If it's important I'll find out. Oh well, guess we can't come up with anybody. The air nomad jumped off the block. Why don't we just take a nice tour around the temple? Before anyone answered him, he opened up the glider and took off. Momo was right behind him. What's up with him? The blind earthbender asked. I don't know, Sokka answered before getting up as well. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to find someplace quiet. Akela, stay put. He walked away, heading into the temple. Where is he going? Katara asked suspiciously. Toph leapt down to the ground. You want to go find out? Just to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. They went after him while Akela stayed where he was. They made sure to follow quietly or, at least, as quietly as they could, as Sokka walked through the temple. Finally, he stopped at a door. He opened it and looked inside. Good enough, he said. He walked into the room, closed the door behind him and locked it. Before the girls could even get close to the door, Sokka started yelling. You are a spirit's damned idiot. You let this guy outsmart you twice. Twice. You should have figured out that he would have known about the rules concerning the Dai Li, and you should have realized he would have known about the Day of Black Sun. He's been in that library more than we have. But did you think it through? No. You just thought you had an ace and you never thought about if someone else might have possibly known about it. Damn it. We lost Ba Sing Se and our dad because of your actions. You have got to use your head more, you dumbass. Both the girls just stood in silence as they heard the rant go on, the shouts from inside just barely echoing beyond the door. Come on, Toph, Katara finally said, turning around. Let's go. Who's he yelling at? Toph asked as they walked away. She hadn't felt anyone else in that room. He's yelling at himself. He always beats himself up when he thinks he did something incredibly stupid. She would have found it funny once. Not anymore. So, how do we approach them? Zuko asked aloud as they set up the camp. They tended to different things so they could finish quicker. You're asking me? Azula replied sarcastically. She was kneeling on the ground getting the fire ready and mentally thanking Naruto for making her learn survival lessons. It's better than just talking to ourselves. Well, maybe we should just introduce ourselves. What? You mean just walk up and say hello, Zuko and Azula here? What else should we do? It's not like we have Uncle here to help us. That comment made him stop and think. He started pacing. What are you doing? His sister asked him when she noticed the pacing. Trying to be uncle, he answered before putting on what he thought was a thoughtful expression. Zuko, Azula, you have to look within yourselves to save yourselves from your other selves. Only then will your true selves reveal themselves. He stopped walk when he realized what he had just said. Even when I'm talking for him, I can't figure out what he means. That sounds like Uncle. Incredibly cryptic and maddeningly unhelpful, Azula remarked as she went back to the fire. Tell me about it, I had to live with it for 3 years, and his tea. He groaned as he remembered a memory. Both the crew and I got scared when he wanted to try a new kind of tea that had to be made with high temperatures. We made him do it on the deck, and made sure the rest of us were below deck and behind locked doors. She looked up from the fire when she heard that. Why would you do that? The last time we let him use the kitchen for tea, we had to dock for repairs, because the ship had a hole in its side the size of a Komodo rhino. The smell, however, lasted for weeks. Most of the crew had found an excuse to be out on deck during that time. Once Sokka was done yelling at himself, he rejoined Katara and Toph. The three of them helped both Appa and Akela out of their armor, then got on Appa and took off after Aang, who was still flying around the temple and acting like nothing was wrong with the world, or at the very least, that side of the planet. Aang, can we talk about you learning firebending now? Katara asked him as they flew through the sky. What? He called out, pretending not to have heard her. The wind is too loud in my ears. Check out this loop. He executed a big loop, showing off. Aang, either you land right now by your own violation, or you land after I brain you in the head with the boomerang. Sokka shouted, making him flinch. I don't think he's ever threatened to hurt me before, the air nomad thought to himself. Okay. He said aloud as they landed back in the temple. We can do that while I show you the giant pie show table. Oh, you're gonna love the all-day echo chamber. I probably could have used that earlier, Sokka muttered to himself. It would have helped reinforce his yelling. It'll have to wait, Toph suddenly stated. When they looked at her in confusion, she pointed behind her. We have company. Toph, that's Appa, Katara told her. It's who's behind Appa I'm talking about. The sky bison moved away, revealing Zuko and Azula. Hello, Zuko and Azula here, Zuko said, making Azula groan. You had to go with that? She asked him. Not the issue right now, he replied, jerking his head at Team Avatar, who were preparing for a fight. We heard you guys flying around down there, so we'd thought to wait here. Appa stepped up next to him, roared, and then gave him a big lick. I'm sure you're surprised to see us here, he said, wiping the spit off. Not really, since you've followed us all over this side of the planet, Sokka told him, while his right hand was kept on his Jian's hilt. Right, well, want me to explain? Azula asked him. Please, by all means. She turned to face the team. We've defected from the Fire Nation, she said with simplicity. We wish to join your group and teach the Avatar firebending. You want to what now? Toph asked. You can't possibly think that any of us would trust you, can you? Katara demanded, incredulous. I mean, how stupid do you think we are? You've had your moments, Azula remarked. I mean, there was that time where you led an Earth Kingdom army to a Fire Nation colony and didn't realize that they were going to destroy it. Katara, don't open your mouth or this will get worse, Sokka ordered his sister. He looked back at the siblings. It is hard to believe you. All the two of you ever done is tried to capture Aang. I've done some good things. Zuko protested. I mean, I could have stolen your bison in Ba Sing Se, but I set him free. That's something. Appa gave him another lick. I'm glad it's not doing that to me, Azula thought to herself, taking a small step away from the bison, just to be sure. Appa does seem to like him, Toph noted. I can understand why you wouldn't trust me, Zuko said to them. And I know I made some mistakes in the past. Like when you attacked our village? Katara asked him. Or when you stole my mother's necklace and used it to track us down and capture us. Katara, close the mouth. Sokka barked. She scowled at him but didn't push it. Nice going, Zuko, Azula told her brother with a small amount of sarcasm. You're not helping, he told her before looking back at the group. Look, I don't know about Azula, but I will admit I've done some awful things. I was wrong to try and capture you, and I'm sorry that I attacked the Water Tribe. And I never should have sent that Fire Nation assassin after you. That last piece of information got everyone's attention. You sent an assassin after them. His sister repeated. It seemed like the right idea at the time. That guy locked me and Katara in jail and tried to blow us all up. Toph told him angrily. Why don't we let the Avatar speak for once? Azula suggested. Everyone's attention fell to Aang at those words. You once said you thought we could be friends. You know I have good in me, Zuko tried to convince him. There's no way we can trust you two after everything the two of you have done. We'll never let you join us, Aang answered firmly. We're trying to help you, get it through your thick heads. Azula snapped at them, getting impatient. We're not the same people anymore. If you won't accept us as friends, then maybe you'll take us as prisoners. Zuko knelt and offered them his hands. His offer surprised his sister. She had never thought he would go this far. No, we won't. Katara shouted, bending her water out of the pouch, and making it hit him like a sledgehammer, knocking him down. Azula moved into a fire-bending stance, ready to attack. Azula, don't. Her brother told her from where he lay on the ground. Put that water away, Katara. Sokka ordered his sister. She did as she was told, but she didn't like it. The two of you get out of here and don't come back. And if we ever see either you again, well, we'd better not see either of you again. She threatened. I've heard 5-year-olds give better threats, Azula commented. Get out. She screamed. Zuko stood back up and walked away, soaking wet. Azula was right behind him, thought, not as close as to get wet. Together, they climbed out of the Western Air Temple and back to their camp. By the time they had arrived, Zuko had been able to dry his clothes via minimal firebending. I can't believe how stupid I am, he said as they walked into the camp. I can't either, Azula said. Why did you send an assassin after them and not tell me? I told you, I thought it was the right idea at the time. Yao Jing had the fact that the Avatar was alive over them, and he thought to get rid of her hold. But why hide it from the rest of us? She asked. What was I supposed to say? Hi Azula, how's it going? By the way, I sent an assassin to kill the Avatar, who's still alive. It probably would have been believable if I had said you sent him. Oh, thank you very much, she sarcastically remarked as she sat down in front of the fire. Why would they try to fool us like that? Katara wondered aloud before turning to face Sokka. And why were you not agreeing with us to make them leave? Because I was willing to give them the benefit of doubt, he answered. No one stays the same over the years. Look at the Sand siblings. They were our allies in Ba Sing Se, but then there was a possibility of fighting them in the invasion. Admittedly, he hadn't been looking forward to that and was glad when they didn't show themselves. Well, it felt just like when we were in prison together back in Ba Sing Se. He starts talking about his mother and making it seem like he's an actual human being with feelings. He is an actual human being with feelings, he remarked sarcastically. She just glared at him in response. I kind of have a confession to make, Aang said to the siblings. Remember when you two were sick and I got captured by Zhao? And you made us suck on frozen frogs? The tribesman asked. How could I forget? That was an experience he was going to remember for a long time, unfortunately. When Zhao had chained me up, it was Zuko who came in and got me out. He risked his life to save me. No way! Protested Katara. I'm sure he only did it so he could capture you himself. That could be the only explanation. That was then, but this is now, Katara, Sokka told his sister. Now isn't any different from then, she retorted. Besides, what's with all that crazy stuff about setting Appa free? What a liar. Actually, he wasn't lying, Toph spoke out. Well, at least he's not cruel to animals. That's a plus, the water paragon remarked. I'm just saying that, considering their messed up family, and how they were raised, the both of them could have turned out a lot worse. You're right. Right, Toph. Let's go give them a medal. The not as much of a jerk you could have been award, Katara said with blatant sarcasm. All I know is that while they were talking to us, they were sincere, the blind earthbender told her. Maybe you're just letting your hurt feelings keep you from thinking clearly. That's easy for you to say. You weren't there when he had us attacked by pirates, or when he burned down Kyoshi Island. Or when he tried to capture me at the Fire Temple. Agreed Aang. But she was there at Tuzin, Sokka defended her. They had seen how Zuko behaved differently then. Granted, it was because Naruto showed himself, but it still counted. Well, why would she even try to defend them? Katara asked her brother. Because, Katara, Toph said walking forward. You're ignoring one crucial fact, Aang needs a firebending teacher. She poked him on the chest. We can't think of a single person on this side of the planet to do the job. Now not just one, but two, show up on a silver platter and you won't even think about it? She stomped on the ground, shaking the ground slightly. Katara fell silent after she heard this. I'm not having Zuko or Azula as my teachers. Aang said firmly. Aang, we don't have any other options, Sokka told him. I don't care. They're not teaching me firebending. He would rather go to Ko the Face Stealer willingly than let them teach him. Well, I guess that's settled, Katara told Toph smugly. She turned around with a frustrated growl and walked away. I'm beginning to wonder who the blind one around here really is. Toph, wait. Sokka called after her. Leave her alone, Sokka, Aang told him. If she wants to be alone, then let her. Fine, there's just one thing that's bugging me. And what is that? Katara asked. If Azula was here, where is Naruto? Night had fallen and they were asleep around the campfire. You must wake up, a voice rang in Zuko's head. It was the same voice he had heard during the eclipse. What? He asked groggily. Wake up. There's an enemy nearby, the voice said. That, along with something cracking in the forest, woke him up instantly. Who's there? He called out, trying to see who it was out there. What is it? Azula asked quietly, waking up as well. Keep quiet, he told her. Stay back. He yelled out, bending fire at the unknown person walking into the light of the fire. That person turned out to be Toph. It's me. She tried to him. She bent up a shield of rock to block the fire, but the fire curved around it. She took a step back and her feet stepped into the fire. Ow! She cried, dropping the shield and falling to the ground. Zuko rubbed his eyes and saw who it was. You burned my feet, she said. The bottoms of her feet were a bright pink. I'm sorry. He tried to apologize, standing up. It was a mistake. He ran over to her. Get away from me, she told him, turning around and bending big rocks at him, which he easily dodged. She crawled away, trying to escape. Let me help you, he told her, dodging more rocks. I'm sorry. He grabbed her shoulder, trying to make her stop. Get off me, get off me. She tore herself out of his grip and bent the earth beneath her into a rock column, hitting him in the chest and sending him flying. He crashed back into the ground in front of the fire. I didn't know it was you. Come back. He shouted at her, but she had disappeared into the forest. He threw himself back with a shout of frustration. Why am I so bad at being good? He demanded aloud. Poetic irony? Suggested Azula. Shut up, Azula. I didn't see you helping. You were across the camp before I could stand up. By then, the rocks were flying. Pardon me if I didn't want to get brained in the head. It was morning. Everyone had woken up and gathered around for breakfast. Has anyone seen Toph? Katara asked as she handed out bowls of rice to everyone. I haven't seen her since she left yesterday, Sokka answered. Maybe she's just exploring the air temple, Haru suggested. There are some pretty fun spots to practice earthbending. He had enjoyed himself doing that. I think we should go look for her, Katara decided. She'll show up when she shows up, Sokka said, sitting down. He wanted food first. We can go check for her, the Duke offered. Yeah, agreed Teo. I want to ride the tunnel down to the Hall of Statues again. It will work a lot better now that I've fixed my brakes. He, Haru, and the Duke left to go through the temple again. The others felt the entire temple shake and saw dust shoot out from a corner. Toph bent a hole in the wall and crawled out of it, falling down the rubble she made and landing on the ground, grunting in pain as she went. Toph, said Katara as she, Sokka, Akela, and Aang ran over to her. What happened? My feet got burned. She answered. Oh no, what happened? The waterbender asked, looking at her feet. I just told you, my feet got burned. She repeated herself. I meant how? Well, I kinda went to see Zuko and Azula last night. That little tidbit of information shocked everyone. You what? Asked Aang. Zuko and Azula. Asked Katara. I just thought they could be helpful to us, she tried to explain as Katara got to work on her feet. And if I talked to them, maybe we could work something out. But they attacked you instead? Sokka asked, trying to get the whole picture. Well, they did and they didn't, the blind earthbender answered. It was sort of an accident. But they did firebend at you? Aang tried to clarify her words. Yes, she answered with a sigh. It's gonna take a while for your feet to get better, Katara told her as she put the water away. I wish I could have worked on them sooner. It would have been a lot easier to heal if she had. Yeah, me too, she agreed. You should have waited until this morning to go see them, Sokka told her. That way, they would have been more alert and less likely to attack her. I figured most of you would say no and would throw a fit if we went through with it anyway. You do have a point. He agreed, throwing a pointed look at Aang and Katara. They ignored it. Shouldn't we come up with a plan to stop them? The air nomad asked as he and Sokka picked up Toph. Why? He asked back. This was just an accident. Besides, what do you want to say? That we'll let them come back as our prisoners, jump them, and then really make them our prisoners? You are the idea guy, Katara said to him as she followed them. They carried Toph back to the pool of water and placed her feet in it. Ah, that's the stuff, she said as she felt the coolness of the water flow over her feet. Now I know how the rest of you guys feel. Not being able to see with your feet stinks. Zuko and Azula made their way down to the temple, being careful to not fall off into the abyss. Why exactly do we have to do this? Azula asked. They said no already. This is not asking to join them, Zuko told her. This is apologizing for last night. I can't believe you're doing this. It was an accident. It was my fault. He had been the one who burned Toph. She snuck up on us. Why was she even trying to do that in? She trailed off when she saw something. Who was that? She asked, seeing a person farther down than them. Who is what? He asked back, not seeing what she was seeing. Him. She pointed down at the person. Who was that? He looked at where she was pointing. His eyes widened in both shock and panic. That's a problem. Everyone still helped Toph out as her feet were being cooled in the pool of water. Unbeknownst to them, the assassin was standing on a ledge, watching them. As he saw the Avatar come back into his sights, he inhaled. It was that point Zuko swung down and kicked him, just as he was firing a blast. His shot was off, hitting the rock above them and getting their attention. Sokka and Aang grabbed Toph. They were about to run when Zuko's voice rang out. Stop, I don't want you hunting the Avatar anymore. He told the assassin, surprising said Avatar. The mission is off. I'm ordering you to stop. He stood in front of the assassin. He was shoved out of the way. The assassin inhaled and fired again. The blast destroyed the cover of the pool of water, showering the team with rocks as they hid below the wall. If you keep attacking, I won't pay you, Zuko told the assassin, trying to bend at him. The assassin didn't even look at him, he just held him there with a hand, letting the fire die away. All right, I'll pay you double to stop. He tried to kick the assassin, but that only succeeded in pushing him away. He still fired off another shot, making Aang duck his head back down. This is why he is the dum-dum, Azula thought as she tried to get a good angle on the assassin without hurting her brother. The assassin turned to face Zuko and fire a quick blast at him. Zuko tried to defend himself by bending his fire into a wall in front of him. The blast hit the wall and exploded, but the force pushed him back. When the smoke cleared, the assassin did not see him. But what he didn't know was that Zuko had grabbed onto a root and was climbing back up. Azula saw that he was safe and tried to generate lightning. What is wrong with me? She wondered as she struggled. It shouldn't be this difficult. Aang decided to act. He moved out of the safety, or at least, relative safety, of the pool wall. He leapt up into the air just as a blast impacted on where he just was. In the smoke, he bent a tornado and threw it at the assassin. He leapt over the tornado, and while he fell, he fired another blast at the airbender, who dodged it by flipping back away. As the assassin fell towards another ledge, he slowed himself down by grabbing the ledge above him. His metal arm tore through the stone, and he landed safely on the ledge. He rolled forward as he landed and fired another blast. It hit the pool of water, harming no one. Katara decided to act. She bent the water out of the pool and leapt up, taking the water with her in a giant wave. With a shout, she swung her arms down and the wave quickly turned into ice and fired spikes at the assassin. He defended himself by bringing his metal arm and leg together, making them act like a shield. When the spikes stopped, he lowered them and looked around. He didn't see his target anywhere. They had run to around the corner, getting out of his range of vision. He fired off another blast, destroying a column. He's going to blast this place right off the cliffside, Toph said as she felt the place shake. Katara took a quick peek around the corner, only to get a blast close by. I can't step out to waterbend at him without getting blown up, she said. And I can't get a good enough angle on him from down here. I know how to get an angle on him, Sokka said. He pulled out his boomerang and pulled his sister out of the way. He stuck his head out and pulled it back when another blast hit nearby. He looked out again and another blast hit. He held out his boomerang at where the blasts were coming and swung it down to where the last shot had struck, measuring out the angle. Alright Boomerang, don't fail me now, he told the thing. He threw it with all of his might. It spun around and around, curving towards the assassin. Just as he inhaled and was about to fire off another blast when he noticed the thing. But it was too late. It struck him in his third eye and knocked him to the ground. I'll give him points for creativity, Azula admitted as she still tried to generate lightning. I got him. Sokka cheered as they moved away from the corner, and he caught the boomerang. Their joy soon disappeared when the assassin stood back up. Oh, come on. The tribesmen groaned. They ran back for cover. I've got it. Azula thought as she successfully manages to generate lightning. Once it was primed, she aimed at the assassin and discharged it. Meanwhile, the assassin's vision had turned blurry, but he couldn't see his target. To clear his vision and lure his target out, he inhaled and tried to fire off another blast. But the same thing in Fire Fountain City happened. The blast turned inward on him. The moment that happened was the same moment Azula's lightning struck him. The resulting explosion was big and destructive enough to take out 2 of the temple buildings. The 2 buildings fell down the cliff, the assassin's metal arm spinning through the air, following them. As Haru, Teo, and the Duke looked on from relative safety, Aang, Sokka, and Katara looked over the edge. While Sokka wore a neutral look on his face, Aang and Katara shared looks of surprise. They then looked up and saw that Zuko was still alive. He climbed up from the root onto the safety of the ledge. Why exactly did I attack him again? He asked mostly himself while he was on all fours. Because you're a dum-dum, Azula answered after leaping onto the same ledge. And where were you? He asked, looking up at her. I was trying to find a good angle on him without hitting you. Sorry if it took a while, she replied with sarcasm. Whatever. He was silent for a few seconds. That wall I bent up should have stopped the blast dead. Instead, it sent me over the edge. It was weaker than normal. I know. It took me longer than normal to generate lightning. The only time I've struggled like that was when I had just started trying to generate lightning. Something is happening to our fire bending. And that wasn't good. Agreed, but now is not the time to worry about it. She helped him stand. We should probably go down to talk to them. Yeah, you're right. I'm always right, she remarked. No, you're not. They made their way off the ledge and down to where Team Avatar was waiting. Once they were down there, they stood before the team in silence. I can't believe I'm saying this, but thanks, Zuko, Azula, Aang said to the 2 of them. Hey, who threw the boomerang? Sokka asked. Hey, who threw the lightning? Azula asked back. Azula/Sokka, Zuko and Aang said at the same time. Zuko looked at the team. I know we didn't explain ourselves very well yesterday. I have been through a lot in the past few years. I've changed since Ba Sing Se, Azula chimed in. It's been difficult for us. I thought I had lost my honor and that somehow my father couldn't return to me, he continued. But I know now that no one can give you your honor. It's something you earn for yourself, by choosing what's right to do. Naruto's words went through his mind. You've restored your honor back at Akawan. How right the blonde had been. All we want to do now is play our parts in ending this war. I know my destiny is to help you restore balance, he finished. The same here, Azula agreed. He looked over at Toph. I'm sorry for what I did to you, he apologized, bowing his head. It was an accident. Fire can be dangerous and wild. So, as a firebender, I need to be more careful and control my bending, so I don't hurt people unintentionally. Aang was surprised at he said. He looked at both him and Azula. I think the two of you are supposed to be my firebending teachers, he declared, surprising the others, minus Sokka. When I first tried to learn firebending, I burned Katara and after that, I never wanted to firebend again. But now I know you understand how easy it is to hurt the people you love. I'd like the both of you to teach me. He bowed to them both. They bowed back. "Thank you," Azula said. "I'm happy you've accepted us into your group," Zuko told him. "Not so fast," he said, catching them by surprise. "I still have to ask my friends if it's okay with them." He turned to Toph. "Toph, you're the one Zuko burned. What do you think?" "Go ahead and let him join," she answered. "It'll give me plenty of time to get back at him for burning my feet. And she would enjoy it." "Sokka? All I want is to defeat the Fire Lord," the tribesman said. "If they want to help, then I say let them join. There's just one question I have for them." "And what is that?" Azula asked. "Where is Naruto? He is never far from you and yet we haven't seen him." Everyone looked at the two Fire Nation siblings for an answer, just as curious. "Naruto stayed behind," she answered, a sad expression forming on her face. "He gave us time to escape by holding off the soldiers coming for us." "Oh, I'm sorry." He didn't think that would have happened to the blonde. "Don't be. It was his choice." "Katara?" asked Aang, looking at her. She looked at the two like she wanted to drown them right then and there. She closed her eyes and took a breath. "I'll go along with whatever you think is right," she finally said, making Aang smile. Akela padded forward and sniffed them, making sure he got their scents. "We won't let you down. I promise," Zuko told them. They walked away, he and Azula followed them. Later, Sokka led Zuko to a spare room. Well, here you go," the tribesman told him. "Lunch will be soon." He walked out of the room and met up with Aang, who had shown Azula where her room was. "It'll take some getting used to," he admitted. "I know," Aang replied as they walked away. But he was hopeful that wouldn't take them long. Zuko put his bag on the bed and started unpacking. He pulled out a picture of Iroh and looked at it. Flashback, 3 years ago. "If I have to," Zuko declared. "I'll spend the rest of my life hunting the Avatar. I know it's my destiny to capture him." "You know, Prince Zuko," Iroh told him. "Destiny is a funny thing. You never know how things are going to work out. But if you keep an open mind and an open heart, I promise you will find your own destiny someday." End flashback. He smiled at what his uncle had said. That's just like Uncle, he thought. Incredibly cryptic, maddeningly unhelpful, and usually right in the end. He gave a small laugh and shook his head. Then he noticed that Katara was standing at the door, leaning against its frame. "You and your sister might have everyone else here buying your transformations," she told him. "But you and I both know you've struggled with doing the right thing in the past." She walked into the room and into his face. "So let me tell you something right now. Either of you make one step backward, one slip up, give me one reason to think you might hurt Aang, and you won't have to worry about your destiny anymore. Because I'll make sure your destiny ends, right then and there, permanently," she threatened him with a glare. The glare suddenly turned to shocked surprise when she suddenly felt the tip of a dagger at her back. "Now that is a better threat," Azula said, standing right behind her. "Now allow me to give you one." She pressed the tip down slightly, making her stiffen. "You make one more threat against me or Zuko, you try to kill either of us, and I don't care what the others will think. They will never find your body. Is that understood?" When she didn't get an answer, she pressed down harder, making Katara whimper slightly. "Is that understood?" she repeated, saying each word carefully and clearly. Katara nodded her head. "Good. Now leave," she ordered, withdrawing her dagger. Katara walked back to the door, stopping to glare at them one last time, before walking through it, slamming the door behind her. Zuko turned to his sister. "That was not necessary, Azula," he told her. "Yes, it was," she replied, sheathing the dagger. "She doesn't believe what we say. Why else would she make that threat?" "So, you gave her one as well?" You may be a dum-dum, Zuko. But you are my brother, she told him. Anyone tries to harm you in any way, they will regret it. Thank you, Azula. I never thought I'd hear you say those kinds of words. People change. Besides, there's a first time for everything, right? Right, he agreed. Now, if you don't mind, I'm still unpacking. Then I'll leave you to it. She walked out of the room and made her way back to her own. She walked back in and looked at her own bag, which was still in the midst of unpacking as well. She resumed putting the stuff away, when she pulled out her prized possession. As she held it, tears began to form in her eyes. No, she declared silently, shaking her head and wiping away the tears. I am not going to cry. Location, Fire Nation. Naruto sat in the middle of the cell, hands bound behind his back. It had been a week since he had been arrested. Each day, Yao Jing would visit him. She would take him to a room where they taught unruly prisoners how to behave. She then tried to educate him, but he had acted like her lessons didn't do anything, but they did, his aching body could attest to that. Come on, sir, Ming said, walking into the cell. Lady Yao Jing wants to see you again. Is it time for another lesson? He asked with sarcasm, standing up from where he had been sitting. I can't wait. I am sorry, Lord Naruto, she said, opening the cell and leading him out of the room. The guards outside were staring at the blonde with disgust and hatred in their eyes. Why are you apologizing? You're not the one whose lessons involve trying to beat me black and blue. And stop calling me Lord Naruto or Sir Ming. I'm a prisoner, remember? I'm afraid I can't do that, sir. Every soldier who had served with Naruto was both loyal and respectful. If they had been given the order, they would try to storm the prison, bust him out, and make sure he escaped. Ming was one of those soldiers. We're here, she said as they stood in front of a door. She opened it, and he stepped through. The minute he did, the door closed and his feet were knocked out from under him. He fell to the ground. You are not 8, Yao Jing, he said calmly, like he didn't care what was going to happen to him. He looked up to see her standing over him. Are you enjoying your stay? She asked him, kicking him in the stomach. Ever since she had that one dream that left her aroused and ashamed, she poured all her efforts and focus into torturing him. She would prove to herself that she had nothing to fear from him, or the one from her dreams. He sat up from where he had fallen. Well, the food could be better, he answered and was slapped across the face. Are you serious? You're slapping me. Could you get any more pathetic? Her response was to shove her foot into his back, sending him to the floor. A little better, but I'd still fail you. Do you think this is entertaining? She demanded. Do you mean your horrible attempts to torture me, or me making fun of you for said attempts? His voice was muffled due to his face being in the ground. The injury she was trying to inflict on him did hurt, but he tried to not let them overpower him. If you want an honest answer, it's the latter. What's next? Are you going to hit me with lightning? Can you even do it? He was doubtful, very doubtful. She pulled him up and slammed him into the wall. Let me show you. She snarled at him. She attached his hands to chains above him, holding him there. She began to generate lightning when there was a knock on the door. Who dares to interrupt me? She demanded, yanking the door open. A soldier stood outside. Lady Yao Jing, I have a message from Fire Lord Ozai, he said, sounding a little scared and nervous. What is it? He wants to see Lord. He stopped when he saw the glare on her face. I apologize. He wants to see the prisoner right away. He bowed to her and quickly left. So, the royal flaming asshole wants to see me, huh? Naruto asked, sounding bored. It took him long enough. You will be respectful of my father, she told him as she punched him in the stomach and unchained him from the wall, letting him collapse to the floor. No chance in hell. He was forced to his feet and was marched out of the room. Location, Western Air Temple. Okay, where am I? Sokka wondered, looking around. The place was a forest at night and in the middle of winter. He stood in a small clearing, watching the snow fall all around him. Above the pine trees, a full moon shined down on him. You did well yesterday, a voice said to him, echoing all around him. Who's there? He demanded. He reached for his boomerang, only to find that it wasn't there. He knew that voice, it was the same one who told him to stop and think in the tunnels at the Fire Nation capital. You know who I am. That may be, but I still don't see you. He looked around, but he still didn't see who was talking. That's because you're not looking in the right direction. I'm right here. The voice now came from behind him. He turned around and saw a great, black wolf laying on a rock overlooking the clearing. Who are you? He asked. I am. The rest sounded muffled, like the wolf was trying to speak to him through a wall. What was that? The wolf sighed. How disappointing, I would have thought you would have heard me by now. I can hear you just fine right now. But you cannot hear my name and so, you cannot hear me. So, tell me your name. I have tried. You do not listen. Well, I'm trying to listen now. He argued. You think to, but it is still the same. The wolf rose from where it lay and padded away from the clearing. How long will you keep plugging your ears? How long must I remain silent? Wait. He called after the wolf, but he woke up instead. Akela raised his head and looked at him. It's nothing, Akela, he said. It's just an odd dream. The white wolf looked at him for another minute before putting his head back down. It's strange, he thought as he put his head back down. But it feels like I should know that wolf. He fell asleep and didn't dream of the clearing in the forest or the black wolf. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.